Hi,
So,
Aakash.
hey, Nimisha, sorry, I'm always lost. Last Cannes meeting that I was part of, I was so tired that I think I fell asleep through the meeting because people were just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And then after like half an hour, it's that time of the afternoon after like working out and some dance where I was there, but I wasn't there. So I think I was gone somewhere. So there was a lot of talking and it was gone. So I missed a lot. So
Mhm.
are you part of the Cannes thing? You're not? Okay.
No, I think I'm just a part of this conversation and I would love to explore this space with you. And as you said, you are in England right now. So I would really like to know, first of all, are you safe and comfortable wherever you are?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
How's your heart? How's your heart?
Um, I know I have a show coming up, so my heart is skipping many beats because I haven't danced for 14 months. Nothing. So now getting back into shape. That's why I'm like, I've got my bells in the back, and I've promised myself today at some point I'm going to tie them and try to get back into that zone. So yeah, my heart I think is just thinking of the show.
Yeah.
It's run away and hit somewhere because I know what happens when you go on stage.
Yeah, you look anxious. You do look anxious. And if that's okay with you, I would really like to then, I think so, try to ground my energy with you so that we can really share a beautiful space together. Let's try to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's try to connect our energy if we can. Closing our eyes for a second, few seconds, just loosening our body, dropping our shoulders entirely. Before we proceed, I would also like to acknowledge I think I am also as anxious as you are. So, thank you so much for being you and creating me a safe space to be anxious too. Yes, I would really like to know you. How are you feeling right now, apart from like being anxious, and what you've been up to? What are you creating?
Can I just ask a question? It's very random.
Yes, please.
It's very random. How is
Yeah.
your mom?
How is my mom?
Yeah.
She's good. I love her.
Okay.
She's good. She's good. Yeah. I can I ask you why did you ask that?
Nothing. I just got something about your mother. I'm not sure what it is. I don't get it. I don't
Mm,
understand it. I just, in a brief second, something connected to your mom and your past.
okay. Possible, very possible. I see that you are as psychic as I thought you would be. Thank you for channeling that. I perhaps something might unfold later on during this session, right? Let's see. Let's hope what we are carrying for each other. Yeah. This is interesting. I wasn't expecting this to be a part of a can conversation, but yes, I am glad that we are doing this.
I think it
Hmm.
would be a very different
Yeah.
conversation, but it's good now that we're here.
Yeah.
Um, where are you right now? Are you based in India? Where are you? Or in
Yes, I'm in India. I'm in Jaipur right now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
How is it there? Because I know the situation is quite tough at
Uh,
the moment.
Now it's the same everywhere in India. Like can't even point out. So I'm just trying my best to not really manifest anything that is not really mine to manifest. So just trying to ground my energy and acknowledging whatever is happening and trying to stay safe and taking care of people around me as well. So that's it. Yeah, more or
Yeah,
less.
I'm looking at your tattoos and it reminds me of my grandmother.
Yeah.
This, so my grandmother was tattooed fully.
Wow. Oh my God.
But we are basically, you would maybe understand this because you're in Jaipur. I presume you will. So we are Kathiawadi Rajputs by blood.
By
So
blood.
Kathiawar is in Gujarat side, but our caste is it's very odd. So for me, when I hear Rajasthani people or people, Marwari people speak, I
Mm-hmm.
feel I understand that more than Gujarati. It's really
Oh,
strange. So they are all tattooed. My grandmother, and I did a piece on it called Inked,
wow.
where the last, because my grandmother raised me. So the last image I had of this was me holding my grandmother's hand when she passed away, and my hand was clear and her hand was inked. So that kind of stayed with me. And then through the piece, I spoke about the impermanence of life, or the figure of eight, life and death, the
Yeah.
continuous sort of thing. And there's an 9 meter by 5 meter paper, and as I dance, I draw on the paper and I get inked through the whole piece. So when I was seeing your tattoos, because I was doing a lot of like research on tattoos and being inked, I
Yeah.
just it brought that back for a second.
Oh, yeah. These are now an inseparable part of me.
Yeah,
And I also have a whirling dervish on my back, like my entire back. Yeah.
but you're brave.
So,
I have a fear of needles. I can't go anywhere near them. That's hence I don't.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your what is your background? What how where who?
I am a lover, as clear. And first thing I would like to just say, I'm a lover and I'm a cosmic lover. I'm here just creating safe spaces for other people using different tools, metaphysical anatomy, master channeling, movement again, like as well, because I really believe that movement is one powerful tool that can help people release a lot, like, and really come back to their body. So yes, that and storytelling and just traveling around, meeting and living with different communities, because I believe this is what I would really, that this is what I was born to do, to build holistic communities, to live with more communities, and to just travel around and just see what the universe has to offer me and what I have to offer. Yeah, that's something that
Sorry,
I
I
was.
hope you don't mind the noise. My heating has cut out for the past 5 days, so I have to put the blow heaters on. So I don't know if it's making any noise. I need
No,
to.
no, no, it's not. It's not. It's not. I would really like to know. So, how did you find your way to the movement practices?
How did I find my way? Or
Yeah,
you mean like initially when I started dance, or just generally?
yeah.
So as a child, I used to walk on my toes. I started walking at 8 months, so I
Mhm,
walked completely on full point. So they
mhm,
used to say, "Oh, he'll be a dancer. He'll be a dancer." And anytime they put any music on, I didn't need any excuse. Any music, whether it was an advertise or some background music, that was my excuse to go and move, you know. And I used to often disappear into a world that existed in my mind and not in the environment that was around me. And I
yeah.
was somehow always connected to mythology. I was always connected to Indian mythology. I don't know why. Maybe because the sense of imagination that it created, where it felt like the gods that I was surrounded by, they didn't just sit on a throne and, it wasn't a white man with a beard sitting on a throne. They danced. They were human. They made mistakes. There was every emotion. There was every possibility. And I suppose now looking back on it on retrospect is because I have dyslexia. So I view the world with the sense of imagination. Like all the objects change for me.
Yeah.
So I think that world sort of connected, that creative world, and everything was dance. I was so obsessed as a child with dance that if I was to pick up a glass of water, I couldn't just pick up the glass of water. I had to choreograph how I would pick the glass up. And if my mother ever went to open a door, I would stop her and I'd say, no, 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 no. You have to open it like, and I was very specific. And of course, she would say, shut up, I'll give you one slap, move out the way. So, yeah, and I remember as like a 4-year-old child dropping coins on a floor and imagining those coins were people and they were dancing and I would make shapes. Now I think about it, that was choreography. So I was choreographing at like 3 or 4. I knew what I was doing and they were people and they were dancing. So I was creating shapes in space with them. So I think dance was one of my languages. I think it was a way that I could speak without words. And I think that was the beauty of it, that it didn't have to belong to any specific geographical boundary. It didn't have to belong to anywhere. It could just be movement. And as humans, now I think about it, our first basic instinct of communication was through movement and gesture.
Yes.
And that goes beyond a lot of things. Sometimes a gesture is more powerful than a word, just a subtle movement. So I think in that aspect, I felt connected to dance, and I officially started dancing at the age of 8. I begged my parents, please find me a classical teacher. I really want to go. I really want. I was obsessed with this movie. You probably, I presume, a lot younger than me. There's a movie back in the days where actress called Sudha Chandra, called Nach Mayuri, was obsessed with this movie. Don't know why, but I think I know why. Her leg was cut off like it's a true story. In real life, her leg is actually cut off. She is a dancer, and against all struggles, she manages to put on a fake Jaipur leg. Funny enough, and it was a Dr. Kasriwal in the movie. I don't know if that's his real name.
Yeah.
And he basically he made a leg for her, and she was one of the first people to dance with a Jaipur leg. And I think it was that difficulty and the obstacles that she overcame that I completely connected with, and the madness for dance. So I connected with that, and I think that's why I was so obsessed with this movie. So that's
Yeah.
how I was connected to dance. And once I started officially learning, I never ever looked back or stopped. And that was 28 years ago. So that was a long time.
Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful and so inspiring. Yeah. What I really loved is that at no point I sensed any, how do I say? So I have this thing that I've been talking about lately about toxic creativity, which mostly comes from inner child wounds. That sometimes when our inner child is wounded, our art reflects most of the wounds that we are creating. And what I've been really understanding in this arena of well-being is that we need more and more languages, specifically the art languages, where we come from a place of in space of peace more than the chaos and the war. We talk about lovers uniting more than this they separating, like that there has to be a happy ending too, that more than the separating and painful stories. Now the future generation would really like stories where an artist is actually coming from a beautiful, creative, healthy state and then creating something peaceful and powerful, which is celebrating their tiniest victories possibly, or that just one moment of mundane love. you know so yeah, I really like the way you explained all of those little moments of your day where you were just dancing around and just embodying it. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, dance, yeah, toxic creativity. That's an interesting word. I think I know more of that now as you get older.
Yeah.
You get locked in these worlds. It's difficult. There's lots of challenges and all the rest of it. Uh, I was just looking at a photo of something creative. We had a creative business session the first time ever. It was incredible. I haven't read through the notes, but we had to create stuff as tasks for our business planning. So we were giving them equipment, blah, blah, blah. And then I created this sort of ecosystem. And there was a picture of a tadpole from a frog spawn to
Okay.
we go into a tadpole to it growing legs to the spine to a semi aquatic and land and then full frog.
Mhm.
Um, and I was looking at that picture and I was seeing that as the evolution of, let's say, myself. And which stage am I at in life? Am I still in this nuclear stage? Have I moved on to, have I got the tail? Am I swimming in my pond? Am I ready to go out of the pond? Have I
Yeah.
finished everything? And so I was just looking at that in comparison to the stage of life. When I
Yeah.
think of the childhood part, dance had a very different place.
Mhm.
Then, of course, as you grow up, it shifts its purpose. Sometimes the purpose then finds you and it doesn't stay forever. It shifts, just as the tadpole shifted from an egg to a tadpole to an amphibian. Just like that,
Yeah.
it evolves. And I think dance is also constantly the purpose of it and your relationship to it. I say dance, but I mean, let's say art, broaden it. It shifts, the whole thing shifts, the trajectory. So it's interesting where it is right now. And that's why I think I'm finding it difficult to tie my belts because it's at a different point. in life.
Yeah. Hmm. So do you really allow yourself to rest in these moments where you just cannot even be the dancer, like,
Well, for a year, I've not danced. Year and 2 months, I've not danced at all. I mean, I did a few, teach a bit of workshopping and the odd thing. I don't count that as dancing. That's nothing when you have to train for a solo show. You know, it's very different. So let's not
Yeah.
count that as dance. But really, I've not danced because the last 12 years have been so insane. I mean, this is the only logic I can find in it. That I mean, we were doing 48 countries in 6 months
Yeah.
performance wise, like back to back. So it was a machine. And, you know, regardless of the personal life situation, no matter if someone is dead, dying, or in front of me, or if I'm dying myself, I would always go on stage. It did not matter. The worst situations, I would still go on stage. So I think, and then also creation is also traumatic as well. It's not, I admire people who say, "Oh, I just love the process. It's incredible being in a studio." No, I'm the opposite. I hate the process because I go into such a zone
Yeah.
that it's while I'm sleeping, in my sleep, it's going on, it's there, I'm conscious, I'm not really asleep. Then I'm awake, I'm there in that thing. You're trying to resolve, it's a problem to find dramaturgically where it's going, a piece, or something's missing. It could be a light, it could be something in the dance is not making any sense, or you know, something is not right somewhere, and that doesn't allow you to sleep. It's like being pregnant, basically. Not that I've ever been pregnant, but it's like being in this period of gestation for 9 months. You don't know if the child will have two arms, two legs, two eyes. Regardless of however the child is, you're still going to love it. But there is this anxiety before it's born. So one of the, and it's the same when you're going on stage as well. Even though I've done this piece that I'm going to do, it's a 1 hour solo. I've done it, I'm not kidding you, maybe 400 plus times. I performed it, did more than 400 times. It's been going for 10 years. Even then, now going back to this piece, it's the same story again. Because it's strangely, you can prepare yourself, but in that moment on stage, every time is different. And it's, you, even if you surrender yourself, it's the build up to it, which is difficult. When you're on stage, you're on, that's it. You're at the mercy of what happens in that moment. Whether it's a surrender, whether you're, you know, you're in that moment, then you can't. It's just the build up.
I can just keep listening to you just know that. Yeah. That's sometimes when my client talks to me before their session or their performance, and they're like, they are going through anxiety. I just tell them this one thing, where that the body goes through the same chemical reaction when you have fear and anxiety and when you have excitement. So maybe you can trick your mind into believing that you are not anxious, but you're excited to perform. Like, that's what I tell my clients. I don't have to tell you this, I'm sure you already know. Just wanted to share that with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Ah,
Mental stamina, I think. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, that aside, I think then there's all these. There are other great things happening, like this Cannes um, project or way of life. Because I think it's strange to call it a project, because I think it has to become a way of life in a way, because I think it has to be introduced into the fabric of the company. That's why we're going to have more conversations and stuff like that. And I think this is where it gets interesting. Um, it takes a lot of effort to move uh, physically, mentally. But then when your creativity is like a well, no, it's like a reservoir, which is gathered and gathered and gathered. And now some of the banks have burst and formed their own rivers. What I mean by that is, before it was channeled only through dance, let's say, but now the banks have burst and they're channeling in different ways. So now there's options like which have emerged creatively. Like there's, you know, whether it's me making a video about something, or whether it's me doing something to do with planting trees, or a gardening session, or a mehfil, or whatever it may be, there's these alternative creative zones, which, because I've done dance for so long, feel very appealing in many ways. And they are building up their trajectory. And then in another way, I'm trying to also hold on to what is meant to be the main, you know, focus of this company and life. But we're also broadening this as well in the company. So we're looking at this sense of cross-pollination. And
Yeah.
this word I've used in Cannes a lot as well. And cross-pollination, I think, is really important. It's when there's an ecosystem that there's a sense of well-being.
Yeah.
Even if you're making food, if you're making sabzi, you're not going to throw a bucket of salt in, then put the vegetables in there. There's a pinch of this, there's a pinch of that, there's a lot of this, there's a bit of that. Then you get the aroma, the ruts, the feeling, the sensation of it. So in the same way in the company, we're also incorporating that now. It's taken a year to get to this place where we're able to now um, think more holistically. Before I was, and then it was a company. It was a very big divide because I was touring, they were doing their thing. My producer was looking after it. He's left. New executive has come in, and then the fields had to be replanted and recropped again. So now the shoots are starting to emerge, and now we've got a videographer, cinematographer, photographer who's incredible, who's a now associate of the company. He's in India. His name's Nirvay Singh Rai. He's an incredible artist. I mean, you should check his work out. He's just phenomenal. We've got, so we're basically mixing the ecosystem artistically within the company now. And a part of that is something like these projects or these ways of thinking that we are now going to start to entwine into the fabric of the company as well. So we're also becoming a dyslexic friendly environment. So we're shifting the whole company and the way it works. So it becomes a model for dyslexia. So I'm becoming the ambassador of British Dyslexic Association, I think, something like this. So I think it's important because my point of view was there's no one way of doing things. There are many ways in ecosystems. And I think this is also part of a problem generally we have, where when we do an analysis or an evaluation, they come with a paragraph which sums what the problem is of everything. But I think if you even think of your area where you live in Jaipur versus the next area, the economy of the areas have already shifted. Matter of a kilometer. If you go to a slum area, it's different. If you go to Belgrade, where my studios are based, very different economy. There, you have a lot of migrant people who are working illegally in factories, but they're working on purpose because they get benefits and they also work, and together they get paid very little. So what's happened to the area is when you go, you can get a full tiffin for £3. Yeah, that's like 300 rupees, but £3, you understand, like the whole economy of the area has been shifted by the people in it. And I think this is also for me in terms of when we're talking about Cannes, and when I think about the company and where it's located in an area where we end up doing everything. The local council are so full of themselves that they focus on a very white area. So we're left in this. So the area Belgrave where our studios are based, which is about 10 minutes from here, is a very Indian area. It's like India outside of India. Your first language doesn't have to be English. You can speak Gujarati, Hindi, Punjabi. Your English can be your fourth language and you will survive, or fifth language. It's that Indian in that way. But it has its beauty because it's out of context. It's already juxtaposed. It's in England and it's like this, they call it the golden mile because it's 1 mile of sari shops, gold shops, mithai shops, and it's just very Indian. So it's really interesting. So this area is the area that our studios are in, which also is a prime area in terms of houses. Like people, all the Indians want to buy houses. It's ridiculous, the prices there and stuff, but it's not looked after. It's quite run down in many ways. It's beautiful, but it's run down. So we have done a few things which is creating change. So we made a gigantic mural of Madhubala and Rekha, one in Umraujan and one in Mughal Azam. So we raised the money for that. So basically, there's a lot of people were fly tipping. They were dumping all their rubbish behind our studios, and it was just a tip. So we decided to start to highlight the area. So we raised like £5,000 through different things, my producer, and made this mural. And it was incredible. You started having people coming there to take photographs and pictures. Like it started to become a thing where people not other than drug addicts and people who are just chilling and whatever. It was their area, and like people who want to throw their rubbish, or our local alcoholic friends who are just sitting there. Then my producer's wife, interesting person who's from Mexico, she goes, she's going to build a little wall and make a garden, a bed, a flower bed. So she on YouTube learned how to make a wall, you know, with the cement and how to level it and everything. And she made a flower bed, and she planted all the flowers and plants and stuff. And then the fly tipping started stopping. All the neighbors started to take an interest. So they started becoming protective of this area. It started to become theirs. Then we started to ask our cleaners every day, go outside and pick all the rubbish which is in that area out of the beds, out of the side, out of the park. So our cleaners would go. So we started to shift this, and we realized that we had to do it. Yeah. Council was not doing anything about it. The area MPs were not doing anything about it. That reminds me, one of them messaged me with a response. And it was interesting recently because of lockdown, we've not been at the studios. It's been, the flower bed was a tip when I went there a few times. And I came there yesterday, the day before, and someone had cleaned the whole thing out and raked it and gardened it. And I asked one of the staff, I said, who did this? She goes, one of the people who live opposite, which is incredible. Because when you give that, when you plant that initial seed, you cannot expect it's going to become a full bloomed tree. But even if a flower blossoms and a person walks by and their eyes meet that flower, for that second, it may create change for that person to do something. And I think that is now the rolling model, I think, to create change around us.
Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing. Thank you so much, Sharon. Yeah, that was very empowering. And I think so Pooja connected both of us because I think we both have been, I think so, working towards using art as a medium of empowerment and also reclaiming the power and somewhere like being the voice of the voiceless. And in last few months, I connected with so many people, including Shiloh Shiv Suleiman, who paints murals. When you talked about murals, you instantly reminded me of her, that in the middle of lockdown, she was traveling around the country, painting such powerful murals of love and portrayal of affection between men and women, sisterhood, brotherhood. And that inspired me to really come back to my own body at the same time. And then there's another friend of mine who paints using menstrual blood. And I am so much in awe, in love with her. She's actually going to visit me in a while. And she has painted a lot of murals across the city. She painted vulvas. She painted proper murals of vulvas, and she wrote it in under it in Hindi, "Kahan se aaye ho, yahan se aaye ho." You know? So very powerful, and people are taking pictures with it and they're like tagging her. And I think it's very empowering, and to in fact see people connecting with this artwork, which is really triggering something in them, like, you know, maybe just igniting something in them. Yeah, yeah, I think that's all.